3 months after my sister's wedding, 4 sworn statements lay side by side on the table in front of me. Each one had been signed by a different relative. Each one claimed to describe a different angle of the night I collapsed in front of 150 guests, and each one contained the exact same sentence. She knowingly mixed alcohol with her medication. The hearing room smelled faintly of old paper and burnt coffee. My father sat behind Chelsea with both hands folded over the silver head of his cane, his expression composed enough to pass for dignity if you did not know him. My mother stared at the witness stand, as though concentration alone could keep the truth from changing shape. Dana Ruiz, my attorney, lifted the first affidavit. "Mrs. Keller, did anyone tell you what to write in this statement?" My Aunt Carol shook her head. "No. I wrote what I remembered." Dana placed the second affidavit beside the first. "And you independently chose the phrase, knowingly mixed alcohol with her medication?" Carol hesitated. "That is what happened." Dana did not argue. She turned toward the court clerk, accepted a printed document, and placed it under the visualizer. The same phrase appeared on the screen. The file creation time was 3 hours before I took the first sip. Carol looked at the screen. Then she looked over her shoulder at my father. That was the moment I understood the hearing was not about whether my family had lied after I fell. It was about how much of my fall they had arranged before I ever entered the ballroom. Before I tell you how my sister turned her wedding into a trap, I hope you're doing well. Stay with me, because what happened after that first sip changed every relationship in my family, and please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what came next. The morning of Chelsea's wedding had begun with Owen trying to strangle himself with a navy blue tie. He stood in front of the dark kitchen window, tugging the knot tighter with each failed attempt. Outside, late summer sunlight flashed across the roofs of the townhouses behind mine. Inside, the coffee maker clicked, the refrigerator hummed, and the knot under his chin leaned so far to one side that it looked almost intentional. "You're going to cut off your own air supply before we reach the resort," I said. "Maybe that's the goal." "Then it's not a very effective plan." He gave me a look that only a 15-year-old could manage, equal parts offense and reluctant amusement. I stepped behind him and loosened the knot, then placed his fingers where mine had been. "Cross the wide end over, bring it through, now pull. You always do this for me. You're almost 16. Eventually I have to let you leave the house without dressing you." He followed the steps, watching our reflections in the glass. He had Grant's dark eyebrows and Chelsea's gray eyes, though his face had grown sharper over the past year. When the knot finally settled into place, he did not move away. Chelsea asked if I wanted to stay at the resort tonight. The coffee maker gave one final hiss behind me. "What did you tell her?" "That I'd think about it." "Then that's still your answer." His shoulders tightened. "You're not going to say no?" "I'm going to ask who will be there, whether you'll have your phone, and whether you can leave whenever you want." "I haven't agreed to an overnight stay." "She said you'd do this. Ask practical questions. Make it sound dangerous." I leaned against the counter instead of stepping closer. Owen had lived with me for 6 years. I knew the difference between the silence that asked for comfort and the silence that asked for room. "Do you feel unsafe with her?" I asked. "No." "Do you feel pressured?" He looked down at the tie. "A little." "Then that matters. She said I should want to stay because she's my mother." "You can want time with her." "That doesn't mean every request becomes a good decision." He studied my face. "What if I decide I want to live with her someday?" The question hurt in a place I had spent years pretending was too mature to bruise. I let the pain stay mine. "Then we talk about what that would really look like," I said. "We ask hard questions, we make sure you're safe, and we listen to what you want." "You'd let me go?" "I wouldn't pretend it wouldn't scare me. But you never have to reject her to prove that you love me." His eyes lifted to mine. "Loving you doesn't give me the right to build a locked door around you." For several seconds, the only sound in the kitchen was the soft ticking of the clock over the pantry. Then he said, "What if she's right about you keeping things from me?" My fingers tightened around the edge of the counter. "What things?" "Things Dad said. Why he wanted me with you. Why Mom signed the guardianship papers." I had prepared answers for judges, therapists, school administrators, and social workers. None of them fit the way Owen was looking at me. "Your father left instructions," I said. "And a letter for you." His expression changed immediately. "You have a letter from Dad?" "Yes." "How long?" Since he died. The quiet between us hardened. And you never told me? He asked that you read it when you were old enough to understand everything around it. I plan to give it to you near your 16th birthday. That's 4 months away. I know. Do I get to decide whether I wait? There was no version of the truth that made me entirely right. You should have been told the letter existed, I said. I was wrong about that. Can I read it now? Not 10 minutes before we leave for your mother's wedding. After today, we'll sit down with Dr. Feld and a lawyer who represents you. You can read the letter, the guardianship papers, and anything else that belongs to your life. Everything? Everything I'm legally allowed to give you. He kept looking at me. You promise? I promise. He turned toward the window and adjusted the knot I had taught him to make. I still might want to stay tonight. I know. And you won't be mad? I may be worried. I may ask questions you don't like, but I will not make you pay for loving your mother. He nodded once, picked up the car keys from the counter, and held them out of my reach. I'm driving when I turn 16. We'll discuss that after you learn to tie a tie without threatening your own airway. He laughed. It was the last easy sound I heard that day. Before we left, I checked the secure message waiting from Lila Chen at North Star Trust Company. The subject line read, "Additional documentation required." Grant's life insurance and the settlement from his workplace accident had been placed into a restricted trust for Owen. I did not control the money. My role was limited to confirming legitimate expenses and providing records when the trustee requested them. The new request was for $48,000 in family reunification services. 2 older disbursements also caught my attention. One was for a private education program Owen had never attended. The other described a therapeutic renovation at a house where he had never lived. Together, those 2 payments totaled $63,000. I called Lila. I need copies of the original submissions, I told her. The descriptions don't match Owen's care. Did you approve them electronically? I don't remember approving either one, and I did not submit the current request. Her voice became more formal. I'll flag the pending disbursement and send a supplemental document request to the vendor. Can you join a secure call Monday morning? Yes. Owen appeared in the doorway. Problem? Paperwork. He waited for more. I gave him none. At the time, I called that protection. Months later, I would have to admit that silence had become my favorite form of control. Hawthorne Ridge Resort sat beside a long blue lake 45 minutes outside Riverton. White chairs faced the water, hydrangeas framed the ceremony arch, and staff moved across the lawn with headsets and clipboards. Chelsea reached Owen before I had fully closed the car door. My handsome boy, she said, pulling him into a hug while her bridesmaid Paige filmed from a few feet away. Owen's arms stayed at his sides for 1 second too long before he hugged her back. A coordinator approached me with a bright professional smile. Owen's room is ready in the East Lodge. I haven't approved an overnight stay. Her smile faltered. Chelsea said it was settled. It isn't. Chelsea turned at the sound of my voice. Her bridal robe was white satin, her hair pinned beneath a veil that would be attached later. Marissa, please don't start. I'm not starting anything. I'm clarifying the plan. My mother hurried toward us before Chelsea could answer. You must be overheated, Elaine said, touching my arm. Where did you leave your bag? I'll get you a handkerchief. In the guest preparation room. She smiled. I'll take care of it. My father arrived next. Richard kissed my cheek without warmth. Whatever is happening with Monday's review, he murmured. Today is not the day to discuss money. I had not told him about Monday. I looked at him, but he was already greeting another guest. That was the first moment I considered leaving. Then Owen touched my elbow. Can I show you something? We walked behind the garden wall, away from the cameras. Chelsea gave me a family reunification plan, he said. She wants me to sign it tonight. What kind of plan? It talks about visits, counseling, school stuff. He hesitated. And support decisions. There was something about disbursements. Where is it? In the room they set up for me. I want to see it. His face closed. I heard the command in my own voice and forced myself to stop. What do you want to do? I asked. I want to see if she actually means any of this. That's fair, but don't sign anything. Keep your phone with you, and if anyone pressures you, call me. I already took pictures. Good. He did not tell me he had sent them to a youth advocate he had met through school. That decision would later protect him in a way none of us expected. The ceremony passed without incident. By the reception, I had almost convinced myself I had overreacted. At the bar, I ordered a rosemary citrus mocktail. The bartender repeated the order and set the ticket beside the register. The glass came with a lime wheel and a paper coaster stamped with the resort logo. I finished it during the speeches. Chelsea appeared beside me 10 minutes later. She glanced at the empty glass, then held out another drink. Relax, it's a happy day. Is that the rosemary mocktail from the bar? Exactly. You looked like you needed another one. The garnish looked right, the color looked right, the glass did not have the resort coaster, but I noticed that only after I had taken a sip. The drink tasted sweeter than the first one, with a bitter edge under the citrus. Chelsea watched me swallow. A guest stepped between us to congratulate her. Music rose from the dance floor. Owen was across the room near my parents, answering something my father had asked. About 10 minutes later, the lights above the tables began to smear at the edges. I set my hand flat against the linen. The floor moved beneath my chair. I tried to stand and immediately sat back down. Someone asked if I was all right. I opened my mouth, but my tongue felt too heavy to shape the answer. Across the room, Owen turned toward me. I tried to say his name. The glass slipped sideways under my fingers without falling. Chelsea reached me just as my knees gave way. For one brief second, I thought she was catching me. Instead, she leaned across my body, closed her hand around the stem of the glass, and pulled it behind her skirt. The last thing I saw before the room went black was my sister carrying the glass away. I woke to the taste of metal and the steady pressure of a blood pressure cuff tightening around my arm. For several seconds, I could not understand why the ceiling above me was white instead of painted with the gold trim from the resort ballroom. My mouth felt dry enough to crack. A dull ache pressed behind my eyes, and every movement seemed to arrive a second after I made it. A nurse stood beside the bed, adjusting the line taped to the back of my hand. "Marissa, can you tell me where you are?" I tried to answer, but my voice came out rough. "The hospital. Do you know what day it is?" "Sunday," she nodded. "You came in late last night. You've been in observation." The word "last night" opened the memory in pieces. Chelsea holding out the second glass. The bitter edge beneath the citrus. Owen across the room. My knees folding. Chelsea's hand closing around the stem. "Where's Owen?" "He isn't here," the nurse said. "Your mother and sister said he went home with family." "What family?" "I don't have that information." I pushed myself higher against the pillows, and the room tilted hard enough that I had to close my eyes. "Please don't stand yet," she said. "The doctor will be back soon." A man in navy scrubs entered several minutes later and introduced himself as Dr. Brennan. He asked me to repeat my name, the date, and what I remembered drinking. "A mocktail," I said. "Rosemary and citrus." I ordered the first one from the bar. My sister gave me the second. "Did she tell you it contained alcohol?" "No." "Did you take any medication yesterday?" "No." He checked the chart before answering my next question. "Your blood work showed alcohol and a substance consistent with one of your prescribed medications." I stared at him. "That medication was in my bag. I can't tell you how it entered your system. I can only tell you what the test showed." "How much alcohol?" "Enough to contribute to impairment, especially in combination with a sedating medication. Your levels were already falling when you arrived." "Did I hit my head?" "There is no sign of a serious head injury. You were monitored overnight because of the combination of substances, your loss of consciousness, and the fall. You're still dehydrated, and I don't want you driving or working for at least 48 hours. I forced myself to breathe slowly. "Who gave you my medication history?" "Your mother and your sister provided the initial information while you were unresponsive." "Did you speak to anyone else?" "Paramedics brought you in. Your family answered what they could." I want the chart to say I did not know the drink contained alcohol, and I did not knowingly take that medication. I can document exactly what you're telling me. I also don't want information released to my mother or sister. He looked at the nurse, who handed me a tablet. "We can update the privacy instructions now that you're able to make your own decisions." My hand shook as I signed. I was still weak. I still needed someone else to bring me home. But the first thing I recovered that morning was control over who could speak for me. My phone had been placed in a plastic belongings bag beside the bed. It showed 11 missed calls, most from numbers I did not recognize. There were 4 from my mother, 3 from Chelsea, 2 from my father, and 1 from Dana Ruiz. I called Dana first. She answered before the second ring. "Tell me you're awake." "I'm awake. Can you think clearly?" "Clearly enough to know I need you." "That's a good start." Dana had handled a school employment issue for one of my colleagues and later helped me review a modification request Chelsea had threatened to file the previous year. She did not waste time asking whether I was sure my family could do something like this. "What do you remember?" she asked. I told her about the first mocktail, the second glass, the taste, the dizziness, and Chelsea taking the glass. "Did anyone bring the glass to the paramedics?" "Not that I saw." "I'll request the ambulance report. The resort has cameras. I'm sending preservation notices today. You can do that on Sunday?" "I can send notice today. If they refuse access later, we deal with that later. The important thing is that no one can claim they deleted footage during routine processing after being told it mattered. The videographer was recording. I'll contact the company and the bartender service too. My bag was at the resort, my medication was inside. Do not call Chelsea about it. I wasn't planning to." "Good. Do you authorize me to communicate with the venue and medical providers about preservation?" "Yes." She sent an electronic authorization while we were still on the phone. I signed it from the hospital bed. "I also need North Star to know I'm not withdrawing the questions about Owen's trust," I said. "Send one short email. State that you remain concerned about the disputed requests, and that any communication claiming otherwise is unauthorized. Do not explain the wedding." I did exactly that. My fingers moved slowly over the screen, but the message went out. Dana stayed silent while I sent it. "Now stop," she said. "You're in no condition to manage an investigation from a hospital bed. I need to know where Owen is. We'll find out. Call him once. Do not argue with whoever answers." I dialed his number. He picked up on the 4th ring. "Marisa?" His voice sounded smaller than it had in the kitchen the day before. "I'm here." For a second, neither of us spoke. Then he asked, "Did you know what was in the glass?" The question hurt more because it was fair. "No. Grandma said the hospital found alcohol and your medication." "They did. She said you must have taken it because you were upset." "I didn't." "You're sure?" "Yes." He breathed into the phone without answering. I could hear a television in the background and the faint clink of dishes. "He was at my parents' house. You don't have to decide whom you believe while everyone is frightened and shouting," I said. "Keep your phone with you. Don't sign anything. If anyone asks you to agree to a legal plan, tell them you want your own lawyer. Grandpa said you might not be allowed to make decisions for me anymore. No court has decided that. Can I come to the hospital?" Part of me wanted to say yes before he finished asking. I wanted him where I could see him, away from the people who had already begun teaching him how to describe what happened. But I could not ask a 15-year-old to leave my parents' house on his own and find transportation to a hospital while I could barely sit upright. "Stay where you are tonight," I said. "That is not the same as choosing them." "What if they won't let me leave tomorrow?" "Keep your phone. Dana and I will handle the legal part." "I don't want everyone handling me." The words landed cleanly. "I know." There was movement near him. Then my mother's voice. "Owen needs to rest. He can decide when the call ends," I said. "He watched you collapse, Marissa, and I'm speaking to him now." Owen lowered his voice. "I'll call you later. Keep your phone charged." "I will." The call ended. I sat with the silence afterward, trying not to imagine what my parents had already told him. Dana called again 20 minutes later. "The ambulance service gave me a preliminary incident note," she said. "It isn't the certified report yet, but there's something useful." "What?" "The crew documented that no one provided the drink container or any sample of what you consumed." I looked at the untouched cup of water beside my bed. "Chelsea took it. That's what you remember. We still need evidence supporting where she took it. The video. If it exists, and if the angle shows it, we don't build the case backward from what we hope the footage contains." That was Dana's way of telling me not to turn memory into certainty. A nurse brought me toast and broth. I managed half the toast before nausea forced me to stop. By noon, messages had begun appearing in the family group chat. My Aunt Carol wrote first. "I'm praying for Marissa. but Owen must come first. She knowingly mixed alcohol with her medication, and we all saw what happened. My cousin posted a similar sentence 10 minutes later. Chelsea wrote that she had tried to intervene, but I had insisted I knew what I was doing. My father said the family needed to remain united and avoid public speculation. The phrase appeared again in a private message from a relative who had been seated near the dance floor. Knowingly mixed alcohol with her medication. Same sequence, same certainty, same judgment. None of them had seen me take a pill. None of them had seen me order alcohol. At the time those messages were sent, the hospital had not released any result to them. My mother and Chelsea knew what medication had been found because they had supplied my medical history. Everyone else knew because someone had already given them the story. Aunt Carol's message had a timestamp from 22 minutes after the ambulance left the resort. I sent screenshots to Dana. "Don't reply," she said. "I wasn't going to." Good. The repeated wording matters more if no one has a chance to revise it after you challenge them. There were also public posts from 2 guests. Neither named my medication, but both praised Chelsea for protecting Owen during a family emergency. One described me as intoxicated. Another said the bride had remained calm after a relative caused a scene. Chelsea had wanted witnesses. By Sunday afternoon, she had given them captions. My friend Nora arrived after lunch with a change of clothes and the expression she usually reserved for parents who shouted at school staff. "The resort finally released your bag," she said. They gave it to one of Dana's investigators, and he brought it downstairs. She placed it on the chair beside my bed. The zipper was closed. My wallet and keys were still inside. So was the blue-labeled prescription bottle. I held it in my palm. The pharmacy label showed the original quantity. I used the medication rarely and kept a simple note in my phone whenever I took it because I did not want to forget a dose during stressful weeks. The number left in the bottle did not match my log. It was short by several tablets. I did not tell Nora that this proved Elaine had taken them. It did not. It proved only that pills were missing and that my bag had been outside my control. Then I found my mother's white linen handkerchief folded inside the inner pocket. Nora frowned. "Was that yours?" "No." "Does your mother usually put things in your bag?" "Not without asking." I photographed the bottle, the label, the inside of the bag, and the handkerchief without moving anything else. Dana had already told me not to treat a clue like a conclusion. The handkerchief placed Elaine near the bag. The resort's key records and cameras would have to do the rest. Dr. Brennan discharged me shortly after 3. Nora drove me home. I spent the ride with the seat reclined and my eyes closed because every turn made my stomach roll. My townhouse looked exactly as it had the morning before. Owen's cereal bowl was still in the drying rack. His backpack sat beside the stairs. The navy tie he had nearly strangled himself with was not there. He was not there either. Dana arrived just before 5 with a folder and 2 cups of tea. "I need you to read something," she said. She placed a draft petition on the kitchen table. The document asked the court to terminate or severely restrict my guardianship and appoint my father as temporary guardian. Chelsea was not asking to be appointed immediately. Richard was presented as the stable, neutral bridge while she reunified with Owen. The petition described months of concern about my anxiety, my medication, my supposedly controlling behavior, and my refusal to support Owen's bond with his mother. Then it described the wedding. It claimed I had consumed alcohol while using prescription medication, rejected assistance, and created a medical emergency in front of Owen. "They haven't filed this yet?" I asked. "They plan to file tomorrow morning." "It's Sunday. How did they prepare all of this?" "They had help." Dana pointed to the document properties printed on the last page. The file name included the words, "Emergency Guardianship Draft." The creation date was from the previous Monday, a week before the wedding. "It could be a template," I said. "It could. Metadata alone isn't enough. We'll need the original server record, revision history, and whoever drafted it." I turned back to the section about the wedding. Some details could have been added after I fell. The structure could not have been. The requested temporary guardian had already been named. The allegations about my medication were already organized. The language about Owen needing immediate protection was already in place. Then I saw a phrase in the section describing my supposed pattern of instability. knowingly combined alcohol with prescribed medication. Not exactly the same sentence, but close enough to explain where the others had learned it. They were expecting me to drink, I said. Dana did not answer immediately. We know they were preparing for some incident involving alcohol and medication, she said. We do not yet know who knew what, or how far the plan went. I looked toward the stairs. That morning, Owen's door had been open. Now the house felt sealed. My family had not watched me collapse and decided I was unfit. They had written the accusation first. Then they had waited for me to fall into it. Chelsea filed the petition at 8:12 on Monday morning. Dana called me before I finished reading the first page. It's verified, she said. Chelsea signed under oath that the allegations are true. I was sitting at my kitchen table with a glass of water, 2 pieces of dry toast, and the blue prescription bottle sealed inside a clear evidence bag Dana had given me. The dizziness had eased, but my body still felt as though someone had replaced my bones with wet sand. What exactly is she asking for? To terminate your guardianship, or, in the alternative, suspend most of your authority while the court investigates. She wants Richard appointed temporary guardian. Not herself. That makes the request look less self-interested. I scrolled through the document on my laptop. Chelsea described herself as a mother who had spent years rebuilding her life while I allegedly obstructed reunification. My father was presented as a calm, financially responsible grandfather who could protect Owen from the conflict. There was no mention of Richard's connection to the disputed trust invoices. There was no mention of the $48,000 request waiting for approval. The wedding was described as the final proof that I had become dangerous. According to Chelsea, I had knowingly consumed alcohol while taking sedating medication, refused help when relatives expressed concern, and collapsed in front of Owen because I could no longer manage my own health responsibly. She said I refused help before I fell. I saw that. No one offered me help. Then she'll need a witness who says otherwise. I reached the attached statements. Aunt Carol's was there. So were statements from 2 cousins and one of my parents' longtime friends. Their wording was not identical, but each repeated the same conclusion. I had mixed alcohol with medication and endangered Owen. They're using the number of witnesses to replace actual knowledge, I said. They're trying to create urgency, Dana replied. An emergency motion doesn't require the court to decide the whole case. It only requires them to argue that leaving things unchanged creates an immediate risk. Owen is at my parents' house. They created the situation they're calling an emergency. I'll make that point, calmly. A secure message from North Star Trust appeared while we were speaking. Lila had frozen the pending $48,000 disbursement. She had also placed the 2 previous payments under internal review and preserved the account access logs. The message said North Star was retaining an outside forensic accountant. I read it twice. They froze everything. Everything disputed, Dana corrected. Normal payments for Owen's legitimate needs can still be handled through the trustee. No one is cutting him off. What happens if Richard becomes temporary guardian? He still wouldn't control the trust, but he could submit records, confirm expenses, and try to influence how the trustee views the previous requests. That's what they need. That's one possibility. We prove it with documents, not assumptions. Dana emailed me an affidavit denying that I had approved or electronically signed the 3 disputed requests. I read every line before signing. The signature on the trust forms looked like mine because it had been copied from a genuine document. That made the forgery more personal than a stranger inventing my name. Someone had taken an act I really performed and moved it to a transaction I had never seen. Dana's retainer was $9,000. I transferred it from my emergency savings that afternoon. I did not ask North Star to pay my legal bill. The trust belonged to Owen. The audit protected his money, so the trustee could pay for the accountant and signature analysis after approving those expenses. Defending my position as guardian was my responsibility, unless the court later ordered someone else to reimburse part of it. The transfer reduced my savings to a number that made my stomach tighten. Then I remembered the $48,000 invoice Chelsea expected someone else to approve without question. $9,000 bought me the right to ask questions in a room where my family had already written the answers. The emergency review took place Wednesday afternoon by video conference. Dana sat in her office. I joined from home because Dr. Brennan had not yet cleared me to return to work. Chelsea and my parents appeared together from their attorney's conference room. Owen was not on screen. The judge had reviewed the petition, the medical discharge summary, my affidavit, and Dana's preliminary response. She made it clear within the first few minutes that she was not deciding whether Chelsea's accusations were true. She was deciding what arrangement created the least immediate disruption while evidence was collected. Chelsea's attorney argued that my collapse showed impaired judgment and that Owen should remain with Richard until a full hearing. Dana replied that no evidence showed I knowingly consumed alcohol or medication. She pointed out that I had been discharged, had medical restrictions only for a short recovery period, and remained legally responsible for Owen. Then she addressed the trust. My client is willing to stipulate that no family member, including Miss Vale herself, submit or approve any disputed trust request while the trustee conducts its review. Chelsea turned toward her attorney. Richard's expression changed for less than a second. Dana had removed the excuse that they needed temporary authority to protect Owen's money. The judge did not terminate my guardianship. She did not appoint Richard temporary guardian. She also did not order Owen returned to my home that afternoon. Because he was already staying with my parents and had witnessed a frightening medical event, she allowed him to remain there until the interim hearing the following week. She said she wanted to avoid moving him repeatedly, while appointing someone independent to speak with him. I was granted scheduled calls every evening. No one was permitted to ask Owen to sign legal or financial documents. No disputed trust money could be released. Then the judge appointed Hannah Brooks as Owen's attorney. Chelsea's lawyer objected that Owen already had supportive family members. The judge answered, "Supportive family members are currently asking the court to decide which of them should control his life. He needs someone whose only client is him." For the first time that afternoon, I felt something inside me loosen. Hannah did not work for me. She would not tell Owen to choose my house because I had cared for him for 6 years. She would not tell him to choose Chelsea because she had given birth to him. She would ask what he wanted and whether anyone had pressured him. That possibility comforted me and frightened me in equal measure. After the call ended, Dana said, "This was not a victory." "I know. You prevented an emergency transfer. That's all." "I know that too." She leaned closer to her camera. "Do you?" I looked at the empty chair across from me. "Yes." What I did not say was that preventing them from taking my place for 1 week felt like the only kind of victory I could recognize. Dana's investigator interviewed the bartender the following day. I was not present. Dana called afterward and read me the relevant portions of Jordan's statement so I would not fill the gaps with what I wanted him to have seen. Jordan remembered my first order because the wedding package included alcohol, but I had specifically asked for a rosemary citrus mocktail. The point-of-sale ticket showed the order time and the non-alcoholic designation. He also remembered Chelsea approaching the service station after the speeches. Jordan had offered to make another mocktail. Chelsea said she would handle it. She did not take a prepared drink from him. She returned from the direction of the bridal suite carrying a glass of her own. "Did he see her put anything in it?" I asked. "No." "Did he see where she got it?" "He saw her come from the bridal suite with it. That's all he can say." It was not proof of what was inside the glass. It was proof that the second drink had not come from the bartender I had trusted. Jordan provided the original ticket, the staffing log, and a signed statement. Dana arranged for certified copies to be retained. The ambulance service sent its official report the next day. No glass or drink container had been handed to the paramedics. One crew member remembered asking whether anyone knew what I had consumed. Chelsea had been crouched near me when the question was asked, but she stood and moved away before anyone answered. The paramedic did not claim to know why. The report did not accuse her of hiding evidence. It simply destroyed the explanation she would later give under oath that she had taken the glass to help the medical team. By the following Monday, Dr. Brennan cleared me to return to work. The school district did not return me to my regular counseling schedule. My principal, an HR representative, and my union representative met me in a conference room before the first bell. The HR representative slid a printed screenshot across the table. A parent had shared a public wedding post describing me as an intoxicated school counselor who had collapsed after mixing medication and alcohol. "We are not making a finding," she said. "But because your position involves direct responsibility for students, the district is placing you on paid administrative reassignment while we review the medical documentation." What does reassignment mean? You'll work on scheduling records, program planning, and compliance reports. No individual student sessions for now. My principal looked embarrassed. I know this is difficult. Has anyone complained about my conduct at school? No. Has anyone alleged I was impaired at work? No. Then please make sure the written notice says that. My union representative nodded. It will. I gave HR my medical clearance and the limited statement Dr. Brennan had prepared. It confirmed I had experienced an unplanned exposure and had been cleared to resume work. It did not reveal Owen's records, the trust dispute, or the details of the guardianship case. I did not need my employer to believe my entire family was conspiring against me. I needed the district to distinguish a public accusation from evidence about my job. I spent the next week in a small office behind the attendance department, reviewing program data while other counselors met with students I had known for years. No one fired me. No one publicly condemned me. The quiet removal still worked exactly as my family had intended. At the interim hearing on August 27th, I saw Owen in person for the first time since the wedding. He entered with Hannah and sat at a separate table. He looked tired but not frightened. His navy tie was gone. He wore a gray sweatshirt despite the warm weather and kept his hands inside the sleeves. I wanted to cross the room. I waited for him to look at me first. He gave me a small nod. Hannah had spoken with him privately more than once. She had also reviewed the current guardianship order, the overnight restrictions, the petition, and the disputed trust requests. The judge heard brief testimony from me, Chelsea, and Richard. Chelsea cried when she described wanting her son back. I did not challenge the truth of that feeling. Wanting Owen was not the same as being entitled to control him. Richard said Owen needed stability and claimed his home could provide it. Dana asked whether he had any financial connection to vendors that had submitted invoices to Owen's trust. His attorney objected that the audit was incomplete. The judge allowed Richard not to answer until the evidence could be properly produced. His silence answered enough for me. Owen did not testify in open court. Hannah spoke for his stated preferences. He wanted to return to my home. He also wanted contact with Chelsea arranged through him and Hannah, not used as a reward for agreeing with either side. He did not want anyone discussing trust money with him unless Hannah or the trustee was present. The judge continued my guardianship. She ordered Owen returned to my home that evening. She kept Hannah appointed, preserved the trust restrictions, and scheduled the main evidentiary hearing for November. Chelsea's request for immediate control had failed. The judge had not ruled that Chelsea drugged me. She had not ruled that my father prepared false evidence. She had not decided whether the signatures were forged. She had only refused to hand them my life before those questions were answered. Outside the courtroom, Chelsea walked past me without speaking. My mother stopped long enough to say, "You're making this harder on Owen." I did not defend myself. Owen emerged with Hannah several minutes later. He stood beside me, but there was a careful distance between our shoulders. "Are you ready to go home?" I asked. "I think so." It was not the answer I wanted. It was an honest one. We had almost reached the elevator when Hannah called my name. "There's one more issue." She held a tablet displaying an electronic form Chelsea had submitted with the petition. The document claimed Owen supported immediate reunification and agreed to Richard serving as temporary guardian. At the bottom was an electronic signature bearing Owen's name. "I didn't sign that," he said. Chelsea's attorney had argued that a teenager might forget clicking an online form. Hannah turned to Owen. "Tell her what you showed me." He pulled out his phone. Before the wedding, Chelsea had sent him a different version of the reunification plan. Owen had photographed every page. Then, because the section about disbursements made him uneasy, he had emailed the pictures to a youth advocate he knew through school. The original photographs had timestamps. The advocate's email server preserved the date. The version Owen received did not contain the statement supporting Richard as temporary guardian. It had been added later. I looked at him. "Why didn't you tell me you sent it?" "Because I wanted one thing that didn't belong to any of you." There was no accusation in his voice. That made it harder to hear. Hannah said the original copy would be preserved through her office. Owen would not have to hand his phone to me, Chelsea, or my father. For the first time, Owen had evidence they did not know he possessed. Owen came home with one backpack, one duffel bag, and the careful politeness of a guest who did not know how long he was staying. I wanted to take the bags from him. I wanted to ask whether my parents had frightened him, whether Chelsea had pressured him, whether he had believed any of the things they said about me. Instead, I opened the door wider. Your room is the way you left it. I figured, there's food in the fridge. Okay. He carried his own bags upstairs. For 6 years, Owen had filled the townhouse with small sounds I barely noticed until they were gone. Cabinet doors closing too softly, music leaking beneath his bedroom door, the refrigerator opening after midnight. That evening, each sound returned separately, without the ease that used to connect them. He ate dinner at the kitchen counter instead of the table. I did not ask him to sit closer. The following morning, Hannah called and asked me to come to her office without Owen. Her office was on the second floor of a brick building across from the county courthouse. The waiting room had 2 chairs, a water dispenser, and a shelf of children's books, meant for clients younger than Owen. Hannah placed a printed copy of Chelsea's reunification plan on the table between us. This is the version Owen photographed before the wedding, she said. I reached for it. She kept one hand on the first page. I can show you the sections relevant to the guardianship petition and the trust. I cannot give you his private messages or everything he told the youth advocate. I'm his guardian. And I'm his attorney. The correction was calm. It still irritated me. I let go of the page. Show me what you can. The document began with language about rebuilding family relationships, counseling, and a gradual increase in visits. None of that was unusual. The financial section was. It described Chelsea as Owen's proposed primary caregiver and stated that she should participate in confirming educational, therapeutic, and support expenses. Another paragraph said Owen supported giving his mother a role in disbursement-related family decisions. His signature would not have changed the trust. North Star would still have controlled the money, and no document written by Chelsea could override the trust instrument. But the plan could have been attached to her court petition as proof that Owen wanted her involved in his care and expenses. She wanted to use his signature to support the petition. I said, that is how it appears. And once she had a new court order, she would submit the invoices again. Hannah folded her hands. That is a possibility. It is not yet a proven fact. The phrase sounded like Dana. I looked at the bottom of the page. Did Owen understand what he was signing? He understood enough to feel uncomfortable. Why did he contact the youth advocate instead of me? You would need to ask him. He thought I would take the phone. I don't know what he thought. Hannah turned the page toward herself. What I do know is that he wanted one adult outside the family to have a copy. That was a sensible decision. I heard the unspoken part. He had not trusted me to remain outside the conflict. I wanted to defend myself. I wanted to remind Hannah that Chelsea had forged a later version of the document and that my parents had tried to replace me while I was in the hospital. Instead, I said, "You'll keep the original photos? My office has preserved them. So has the youth organization's email server." Good. It was not easy to accept a safeguard I did not control. That did not make the safeguard wrong. North Star's preliminary audit arrived 2 days later. Dana and I met with the forensic accountant in a conference room at the trust company. Lila sat at the far end of the table with a binder open in front of her. The accountant, a woman named Priya Nair, projected 3 invoices onto a screen. The first 2 disbursements were paid over the past 6 months, she said. Together, they total $63,000. One invoice was for a private education program. Owen had never attended it. The second was for a therapeutic renovation at a property owned by a company connected to Eric. Owen had never lived there. The pending $48,000 request was for family reunification services, supposedly provided by a consulting company with a mailing address that matched one of Richard's business registrations. The signatures are mine, I said. They appear to be copied from a genuine electronic form you signed 2 years ago, Priya replied. The placement, pixel pattern, and compression artifacts are identical. She showed us the documents side by side. Someone had lifted my real signature from a legitimate school expense request and placed it beneath 3 false certifications. Who uploaded them? We're still reviewing access records. The submissions came through vendor portals, not your Guardian account. Lila turned to another page. The pending request was held because the vendor failed to provide treatment notes, attendance records, or a service agreement. Because none existed, I said. That is what the audit is examining. Priya displayed a chart connecting the vendors. One company led to Eric's event business. One led to Richard. The supposed education program shared a payment processor and contact number with another company Chelsea had used for wedding contracts. Then Priya showed us the debt. Chelsea and Eric's business owed approximately $420,000 across a commercial loan, vendor balances, and revolving credit. A large payment was due before the end of August. Richard had guaranteed part of the debt through a home equity line. Elaine had signed the property documents with him. They used the house? I asked. Dana nodded toward the screen. It appears so. For the first time, my father's role made financial sense. Richard had not simply chosen Chelsea because she was his favorite. If the company failed, he and Elaine could lose part of the home they had spent 30 years paying for. That did not excuse what he had done. It explained why he was willing to do more. Priya closed the presentation. North Star will continue the audit. Until it is complete, no disputed request will be released. Can they move the money another way? I asked. Not from this trust, Lila said. The trustee controls the assets. A new guardian would not receive direct possession. The answer should have reassured me. Instead, it sharpened the plan. Chelsea did not need to steal the entire trust. She needed me removed as the person challenging her paperwork. She needed a guardian willing to confirm her expenses, and enough confusion to delay the audit until the business survived another month. $48,000 would not erase $420,000 in debt. It could keep one payment from defaulting. It could keep vendors quiet. It could buy time. For desperate people, time often looked enough like rescue. The resort produced its keycard log the following week. Dana called me into her office before showing it to me. Remember, this tells us who entered a corridor, access room, she said. It does not tell us exactly what happened inside. The log showed that my mother had used a staff key to enter the guest preparation room at 5:43 in the afternoon. My bag had been in that room. Elaine remained inside for 6 minutes. 9 minutes later, the same key opened the bridal suite. Chelsea was already there. The resort had preserved hallway footage, but its attorney would not release the full video without a subpoena or agreed protective order. Dana had begun that process. What reason did my mother give for having a staff key? She told the coordinator you needed a handkerchief and medication before the reception. I never asked her for medication. I know. The explanation placed the lie before the act. My mother had not merely found my bag while looking for a handkerchief. She had created a reason to enter the room and mentioned medication to someone who might later remember it. Dana slid a second document toward me. It was a forwarded email from Aunt Carol. The subject line read, Family Safety Summary. The body instructed relatives to watch for signs that I was becoming emotional, controlling, or impaired. It said Owen should remain with Richard if I knowingly combined alcohol with prescribed medication. The same punctuation error appeared in Carol's statement, and 2 messages sent after the ambulance left. The email header identified Richard as the sender. The attachment properties identified him as the author. The earliest saved version had been created the morning before the wedding. I read the sentence again. Prescribed medication. Not just alcohol. Not just a scene. My father had known the explanation would involve my own prescription before anyone could have known what the hospital would find. He knew about the pills, I said. Dana did not soften the answer. Yes. My mother had accessed the room where the medication was stored. My father had written the narrative that would explain it. Chelsea had carried the replacement drink to me. Their roles were beginning to separate. Richard designed the story. Elaine obtained access. Chelsea delivered the result in front of the witnesses they had prepared. The hallway video would later show movement. The email already showed knowledge. That night, I waited until Owen had finished dinner before I asked whether we could talk. He stayed at the kitchen counter, turning a bottle cap between his fingers. Hannah showed me the parts of the reunification plan related to the case, I said. His hand stopped. She wasn't supposed to show you my messages. She didn't. What did she show you? The sections about expenses and the version submitted to court. He nodded, without looking at me. You were right not to sign it. I know. The answer carried more anger than pride. I sat on the stool across from him. I also want to talk about your father's letter. You said I could read it. I said we would go through it with Dr. Feld and Hannah. That's not the same thing. No, it isn't. When? I want to make sure you're prepared. He laughed once, without humor. You keep saying that. It contains information about your mother and the guardianship. So does the court case everyone keeps filing about me. This is different. Because you decide it is? I felt the fear rise before I recognized it. Chelsea had already contacted him twice, through messages that were supposed to be limited to scheduling. She had told him I was using the trust investigation to keep him away from her. My father had asked him to remember who his real family was. Every part of me wanted to close the door before they could pull him through it. I think contact with Chelsea should stop until the hearing, I said. His face changed. What? She tried to get you to sign a document about money. A false version was submitted under your name. Until we know what else she's doing, contact is not safe. So, you're deciding again. I'm trying to protect you. From talking to my mother? From being manipulated. You think I can't tell when she's lying? I think adults with lawyers and financial pressure can manipulate anyone. That includes you. The words struck harder because he was not shouting. I am not asking you for money. No. You just keep deciding what I'm allowed to know and who I'm allowed to talk to. I said we would give you the letter. When you think I'm ready. With support. When you think I'm ready, he repeated. I reached for patience and found fear instead. I'm asking Hannah to request temporary no contact. Owen pushed away from the counter. You told me before the wedding I didn't have to reject her to prove I loved you. This isn't about proving anything. It sounds like I only get to choose when you like the choice. That isn't fair. Neither is having every adult call control protection. He left the kitchen before I could answer. I called Hannah the next morning. I want you to seek a temporary no-contact order, I said. Based on what new immediate danger? The forged document, the pressure about the trust, Chelsea's messages. I can raise the concern with the court. I will also ask Owen what conditions he wants. He's 15. He is also my client. I'm still his guardian. And the existing order does not give you unlimited authority to cut off court-recognized contact during active litigation without review. The legal answer angered me because it blocked the action that felt safest. What if she pressures him again? Then we document it and ask the judge for restrictions supported by evidence. She already did. Yes, that may justify supervised contact, limits on topics, or a temporary pause. It does not mean you and I decide without him. I closed my eyes. I'm trying to keep him from being used. I believe you. The kindness made the correction worse. But he told me he feels used by everyone right now. That afternoon, Dana received a letter from Eric's attorney. Eric admitted he knew about the Monday trust review before the wedding. Chelsea had told him the pending payment might be stopped unless I was handled. He claimed he believed the plan was to give me one strong alcoholic drink, provoke an embarrassing scene, and use the witnesses to argue that I was unstable. He denied knowing Chelsea intended to use my prescription medication. Do you believe him? I asked Dana. I believe his interests are starting to separate from Chelsea's. That wasn't my question. It is the only answer we have right now. The calendar record showed Eric had forwarded the Monday meeting notice to Chelsea. His message read, "We need this handled before the ceremony ends." He had agreed to humiliate me and interfere with the review. Whether he knew about the pills would have to be proven separately. 2 days later, Hannah filed an emergency request of her own. It was not for no contact. It was for Owen to spend 1 week at a county-approved youth respite residence. He had told her he did not want to stay with Chelsea, my parents, or me while the adults argued over his phone calls, his trust, and his father's letter. The request went to the judge. The judge approved it for 7 days, with school attendance, access to Hannah, scheduled calls, and no financial discussions. I read the order 3 times. Owen packed after dinner. I stood in his doorway while he folded shirts into the same duffel bag he had brought home from my parents' house. You don't have to do this, I said. Yes, I do. You can stay here. I won't stop your calls unless the court orders it. He placed a charger in the side pocket. That's not the only reason. I know. He looked at me then. I don't think you're like Chelsea. The relief came too quickly. But every time you're scared, you decide more things for me. There was no accusation I could defeat with a document. I had spent 2 weeks proving that Chelsea, my parents, and Eric were trying to control Owen's future. Then fear had made me reach for the same tool. Chelsea had tried to take Owen from me. Fear had just made me push him away on my own. The county respite center looked less like a shelter than a small college dorm someone had forgotten to finish decorating. The walls were pale gray, the furniture was sturdy, and every door had a narrow window set at eye level. Owen sat across from me in a private meeting room with Hannah beside him. He wore the same gray sweatshirt he had worn to court, though the sleeves were pushed above his wrists now. I had spent the drive rehearsing explanations. None of them survived the way he looked at me. "I'm not here to make you come home," I said. His expression did not change. "Then why are you here?" "To apologize." Hannah opened a folder but did not speak. I placed both hands on my knees so I would not reach across the table before Owen invited me to. "I was right to be concerned about the document Chelsea wanted you to sign. I was right to take the missing medication, the trust requests, and the false signature seriously." He stared at the floor. "But I was wrong to decide that concern gave me the right to shut down every conversation without asking what you wanted." Owen looked up. "Chelsea tried to control my future," he said. "You controlled my past." The words were simple. That made them harder to escape. "What she did was dangerous," I said. "What I did came from fear. But fear doesn't become respect just because I call it protection." "You keep saying you were protecting me." "I know. Do you still think I shouldn't talk to her?" "I think any contact needs rules. I think she has used your feelings and your name to support things you never agreed to. But I don't think I should decide the rules by myself." His eyes moved toward Hannah. "Does that mean I can call her?" "It means you and Hannah can discuss what contact is safe, and I will be part of the process without treating my opinion like the only one that matters." He rubbed his thumb along the edge of the table. "What about Dad's letter? You should read it. Today? If that's what you want." He looked surprised enough that I understood how rarely I had answered him without adding a condition. "I want Dr. Feld there," he said. "Then she'll be there." "And Hannah." "Yes. And I don't want you to stop me halfway through because you think it's too much." My first instinct was to say that a therapist might need to pause if he became overwhelmed. I swallowed the answer. "You can stop whenever you want," I said. "No one else gets to take the letter away once you begin." Owen watched me for several seconds before nodding. The meeting with Dr. Feld took place 2 days later. Grant's letter had remained in a sealed archival envelope inside my fireproof box since the guardianship proceedings 6 years earlier. The envelope had his handwriting on the front. "For Owen, when he is old enough to ask questions none of us can answer for him." I had read the letter once after Grant died, because his written instructions authorized me to review it with the therapist overseeing Owen's transition. I had told myself that knowing its contents made me responsible for choosing the correct moment. What it had really done was make me the gatekeeper of a truth that was never mine. Owen broke the seal himself. Dr. Feld sat near the window. Hannah sat beside the door. I took the chair farthest from Owen. Grant's letter did not begin with Chelsea. It began with an apology. He wrote that Owen should never have been forced to carry the consequences of decisions adults made before he was old enough to understand them. He wrote about school mornings, burnt pancakes, baseball games Grant had pretended to enjoy, and the way Owen used to sleep with the hallway light on after thunderstorms. Owen smiled once while reading. Then he reached the section about his mother. Grant explained that Chelsea had once used Owen's identifying information to open a credit account. He wrote that the account had been reported, closed, and frozen before it could follow Owen into adulthood. The bank, credit bureaus, lawyers, and court had all been informed. Nothing in the letter revealed a crime Marissa had hidden from the people responsible for protecting him. What I had hidden was the emotional meaning of it. Grant wrote that Chelsea's love for Owen might be real and still not be safe in every form. He wrote that adults sometimes used shame, blood, sacrifice, or fear to demand loyalty they had not earned. Then Owen read the line that made his voice stop. "You do not owe any adult your obedience simply because they call their control love." He lowered the page. "Did Dad want me to stay with you forever?" "No," I said. "Then why did you act like that was the plan?" "I acted like keeping your life stable was the plan." "That isn't what I asked." "No. Your father did not tell you to choose me forever." Owen looked back at the letter. Grant had written that Marissa was the person he trusted to keep Owen safe while he was young. He had also written that safety was supposed to prepare Owen to make his own decisions, not replace those decisions. The letter did not crown me. It placed an expiration date on the kind of authority I had grown comfortable exercising. Owen finished reading without crying. He folded the pages along their original creases and placed them back on the table. "You were going to wait until December?" "Yes." Would you have given it to me if the wedding hadn't happened? The honest answer was not flattering. I believe I would have. That isn't the same as yes. No. He nodded slowly. Dr. Feld asked whether he wanted a break. I want to know what else there is. Hannah told him they could review the guardianship records in stages. Owen asked for copies of the original court order, the credit freeze confirmation, and any documents submitted in his name. I agreed before anyone had to ask me. The following afternoon, Hannah arranged a supervised call between Owen and Chelsea. I was not in the room. I did not hear Chelsea's voice or see Owen's face. Everything I knew about that conversation came from Hannah's summary and what Owen chose to tell me later. Chelsea began by saying she missed him. Owen asked why the reunification plan included language about disbursements. Chelsea said the money would have helped them rebuild their life together. He asked why a version carrying his name had been changed after he photographed it. She said lawyers sometimes revised forms. He asked why the education invoice named a program he had never attended. Chelsea did not answer. Instead, she told him I had kept his father's letter from him for 6 years. Owen said, I already know. According to Hannah, Chelsea went silent. Then she asked whether I had turned him against her. Owen ended the call himself. When he told me about it, we were seated on a bench outside the respite center. A youth soccer practice was taking place in the field across the parking lot. She kept talking about what you did, he said. What did you want her to talk about? What she did. I nodded. She said the money was for us. What do you think? I think she wanted it to be for us after it saved her company. There was no triumph in his voice. He looked tired. I still wanted her to answer differently, he said. I know. You don't know everything. No, I don't. It was the first time I answered him without trying to prove how well I understood. The next morning, I met Dana and Hannah at Dana's office. I brought a written proposal. North Star would continue controlling all trust distributions. I would no longer be the only family member receiving age-appropriate financial summaries. Owen would receive them through Hannah and the trustee. I would not ask the court for unlimited authority to stop contact between Owen and Chelsea. Any restriction would require evidence of a new danger. Owen's input and review by Hannah, or the court. Hannah would remain Owen's attorney throughout the guardianship dispute. Dana read the proposal twice. You understand this limits your authority even if you win the petition? Yes. You may disagree with decisions Hannah supports. I already do. That isn't the same as living with it. I know. Dana placed the pages on the desk. Why are you doing this now? Because if the only way I can keep Owen is by controlling the information, the money, and the people he speaks to, then Chelsea and I are arguing over who gets to own him. Hannah studied me. He may still make decisions you think are wrong. I made decisions I thought were right and still hurt him. The admission did not solve anything. It was a better foundation than certainty. 2 days before Owen's respite placement ended, Paige Monroe called me. I almost ignored the number because I did not recognize it. Marissa, it's Paige, Chelsea's bridesmaid. I know who you are. Her breath caught. I need to ask you something. Go ahead. Did your lawyer contact Aunt Carol? Yes. Chelsea said you threatened her into changing her statement. That isn't what happened. What did happen? Carol was asked to separate what she saw from what other people told her. Paige was quiet. I filmed most of the wedding, she said. Chelsea asked me to delete the clips after the ambulance left. Did you? I deleted them from my phone. I closed my eyes. But my account automatically backed everything up. I said nothing. She told me those were private moments, Paige continued. I believed her. Then she asked me to tell people you had been drinking before the reception. Had you seen me drinking? No. Then don't say you did. Her voice tightened. There may be something on the backup. Do not send it directly to me. Why? Because I don't want anyone claiming I edited, pressured, or mishandled it. Contact Dana. Preserve the account exactly as it is. You're not even going to ask what I saw? I'm going to let the evidence answer that. Paige exhaled. I introduced Chelsea's company to 2 venues. My name is still on their website. That is something you need to discuss with your own lawyer. You could tell everyone what she did. I could also expose Owen's medical and financial records while doing it. So you're protecting her? No, I'm protecting him. Paige contacted Dana that afternoon. She did not yet hand over the files, but she agreed in writing not to delete or alter the cloud backup. Owen's 7-day respite placement ended on a Friday. Hannah drove him to my townhouse because he had asked her to be present when he returned. His duffel bag looked lighter than when he left. We sat at the kitchen table before he carried anything upstairs. "I want to come back," he said. "You don't have to decide permanently today." "I know. What do you need?" He glanced at Hannah, then back at me. "No documents about me that I don't know exist." "Agreed. If Chelsea calls, I tell Hannah. You can know the call is happening, but you don't get to listen unless I ask. If there's an immediate safety concern, I may need to act. Then you explain it to Hannah and the judge. You don't just take my phone." I nodded. "Agreed. I want copies of everything I'm allowed to have. We'll make a list with Hannah and North Star. And if you think I'm not ready for something, I tell you why. I don't pretend the thing doesn't exist." His shoulders lowered slightly. "I'm still mad. You're allowed to be. I don't know when that stops. You don't owe me a deadline." He picked up the duffel bag. "I'm going upstairs." "Okay." He paused near the stairs. "I'm not choosing you over Chelsea." "I know. I'm choosing to come home." The distinction hurt. It also made his return real. On Monday, Dana received notices from the opposing attorney. Richard intended to testify that he had prepared no documents before the wedding. Elaine intended to testify that she had never touched my medication or removed anything from the bridal suite. Eric intended to deny knowledge of any plan to damage my reputation. Chelsea intended to testify that she had given me an ordinary mocktail and taken the glass only to help the paramedics. Each of them wanted the court to hear the story in their own voice. Dana spread the notices across her conference table. "They know we have questions," I said. "They don't know everything we have. Do we show them? We follow discovery rules. We disclose what we are required to disclose when we are required to disclose it. But we do not warn them away from statements they have already chosen to make." That sounds like a trap. No. A trap tricks someone into doing something they would not otherwise do. They wrote this story before the wedding. They repeated it after the ambulance left. Now they are choosing whether to swear it is true. I looked at the 4 names. For weeks, I had been trying to prove what my family had done. Now they were volunteering to confirm exactly how far they were willing to carry the lie. They were preparing to swear to a story we already knew had been written before I fell. Dana built the case on a whiteboard. She divided it into 4 columns, one for each person who intended to testify. Richard's column contained the petition draft, the family safety summary, the trust vendors, and the home equity documents. Elaine's contained the keycard log, the missing medication, the message about the blue-labeled bottle, and the box she had carried out of the bridal suite. Eric's contained the company debt, the Monday trust review, the false vendors, and the message saying I needed to be handled before the ceremony ended. Chelsea's contained the second glass, the altered reunification plan, the disputed invoices, and the story she had begun spreading before the ambulance reached the hospital. Dana drew a line beneath all 4 names. "Everything above this line is what they have already claimed," she said. "Everything below it is what the records may prove." I sat across from her with a notebook open on my lap. "May prove? Some evidence is still preliminary. Some has not been authenticated. Some shows opportunity but not intent. They prepared the petition before the wedding. We have metadata suggesting that. We need the server archive. My father wrote the exact explanation before I drank anything. We have a forwarded copy. We still need the original account records." I knew why she kept correcting me. A family could build a lie by repeating certainty until no one remembered where it began. Dana refused to let me build the truth the same way. "Are they going to see everything before the hearing?" I asked. "They will receive what discovery rules require. They already know we requested the resort footage and trust records. They do not need a personal warning every time a document contradicts them." "What about Paige's video?" "It is under preservation. If she produces it, it will be disclosed according to the court's order." So we wait while they keep saying I did this to myself. Dana capped the marker. "You could release your medical records, the guardianship filings, and the trust investigation tomorrow. You might win public sympathy for a week. And expose Owen." "Yes." I closed my notebook. The parent who complained to the school had not withdrawn anything. My district reassignment continued. 2 relatives had stopped answering my calls. Online, The wedding story remained simple. The responsible bride had protected a child after her unstable sister mixed alcohol and medication. I wanted to correct every sentence. Instead, I said, "We keep it out of public view." Dana nodded. "Then we build something that can survive inside a courtroom." Aunt Carol contacted Dana 2 days later. She asked to meet without Richard, Elaine, or Chelsea knowing. Carol arrived wearing a beige cardigan despite the warm September afternoon. She held her purse with both hands and sat on the edge of the chair as though she might leave before Dana asked the first question. "I need to change my statement," she said. Dana turned on no recorder until Carol signed consent. "What part is inaccurate?" Dana asked. Carol looked at me. "I didn't see you take medication." "I know. I didn't see you order alcohol either." "What did you see?" "You took a drink from Chelsea. Later you looked sick." Then Elaine called me while the paramedics were still there. "What did she say?" "That you had mixed alcohol with your anxiety medication." She said this proved what they had been worried about. "Had you been worried before that night?" Carol rubbed one thumb over the clasp of her purse. "Richard sent us a summary the day before the wedding. He said you might create a scene if Chelsea tried to spend time with Owen." Dana placed Carol's affidavit on the table. "Did you write this sentence?" Carol read it. "She knowingly mixed alcohol with her medication." "Not exactly." "What do you mean?" "I wrote that Elaine said you had mixed them." Richard sent it back and told me to remove Elaine's name because the statement should reflect what the family understood. "What the family understood," Dana repeated. Carol nodded. "Did Richard change anything else? He made it sound like I saw you refuse help." "I didn't. I was near the dance floor. But people were standing between us." "Why did you sign it?" Carol's eyes filled, but she did not cry. "Because they said Owen could be sent to strangers if we didn't show the court there was a stable family ready to protect him." I thought about the respite center and the way my parents had treated any independent adult as a threat to the family. They had not wanted Owen protected by strangers. They had wanted him controlled by people who already knew the script. Dana slid a blank statement form across the table. "Write only what you personally saw and heard. If you do not remember something, say you do not remember." Carol looked at me again. "Are you going to tell everyone I lied?" "I'm going to tell the court which parts were not true." "That isn't what I asked." "No, I'm not going to campaign against you. But I won't protect the statement." She lowered her eyes. After she signed the correction, she said she would contact 2 cousins who had received the same summary. Dana did not ask her to persuade them to support me. She asked her to tell them to describe only what they had witnessed. That was how the social circle began to shift. Not with a public confession or a viral video, but with one relative admitting that the words in her mouth had belonged to my father. Paige produced the cloud backup the following week. Her attorney arranged the transfer directly to Dana under the protective order. The files included hours of rehearsal clips, makeup footage, guest arrivals, and private conversations that had nothing to do with me. Dana instructed the video technician to preserve the original files and extract only the portions relevant to the case. The first useful clip showed Chelsea in the bridal suite before the reception. Paige was filming her adjusting her earrings. Chelsea looked toward the open door and asked, "Can the camera by Marissa's table see the bar?" Paige laughed. "Why?" "I want her reaction during the toast." "What reaction?" Chelsea smiled at her reflection. "Just keep filming if anything happens." The clip ended there. It did not show medication. It did not mention the trust. It showed that Chelsea had considered the camera angle before bringing me the second drink. Another clip began after the ambulance left. The image shook as Paige walked through the service corridor. Chelsea stood near the bridal suite with Eric and my mother. The original audio was muffled by music and voices from the ballroom. Paige's attorney agreed to allow a certified audio technician to improve clarity without altering the source. Until that work was complete, Dana would not tell me what she thought she heard. Paige removed her name and photograph from Chelsea's company website that week. She also contacted 2 venues she had introduced to the business and said she could no longer recommend the company while its accounting records were under investigation. She did not mention my medication. She did not send them the wedding footage. The consequences began with her own professional decision, not with my private records. Eric requested a meeting through his attorney. He arrived alone except for counsel, and looked older than he had at the wedding. His wedding ring remained on his hand, though he turned it repeatedly while we spoke. Dana began with a warning. This is not an immunity negotiation. Nothing my client says can promise you protection from civil or criminal consequences. I understand. Then tell us what you knew. Eric looked at me. Chelsea said you were trying to block the trust payment because you wanted to keep Owen dependent on you. I had asked for supporting documents. That isn't how she described it. What did she ask you to do? Nothing physical. She said you would be tense at the wedding and that one real drink might loosen you up enough to show everyone what you were like when you lost control. You agreed to give me alcohol without telling me? He looked down. I agreed not to interfere. Dana spoke before I could. Did you know Chelsea intended to use prescription medication? No. Did you know Richard had prepared a statement mentioning medication? No. Did you know a petition had been drafted? I knew they were considering an emergency filing. I didn't see it. What did you mean when you wrote that Monday's meeting needed to disappear? Eric pressed his lips together. Our loan payment was due before the end of the month. If the pending trust request was denied and the previous invoices were audited, the lender would know our revenue records were false. So you needed Marissa unable to complete the review. For a few days, maybe a week. You understood the wedding incident would be used against her guardianship? Yes. The words settled between us. Eric had not known about the medication. He had still agreed to make me look impaired in front of 150 witnesses so that my family could use my humiliation in court. Why come forward now? I asked. Because Chelsea told me the hospital result came from something you took yourself. Then I saw messages between her and your father. What messages? She asked whether Elaine had found the right bottle. Dana's posture changed. Do you have those messages? They were on a shared tablet connected to Chelsea's account. I photographed them. Where is the tablet? At the house. Do not touch, reset, or remove it, Dana said. Your lawyer will arrange preservation. Eric looked toward his attorney, then nodded. Chelsea also told me to delete the bridal suite camera feed. I said there was no camera inside the room. Was there one in the hallway? Yes. Did you delete it? No. The resort controlled that system. His cooperation did not make him brave. It meant the part of the plan he had accepted was becoming more dangerous than the marriage he was trying to protect. The server records and hallway footage arrived under court order near the end of October. Richard's family safety summary had been created from his business email account the day before the wedding. Earlier, revisions were recovered from the server. One draft referred only to alcohol. A later revision added my prescription medication. The change occurred after a text exchange between Richard and Elaine. Elaine wrote, I found the blue, labeled bottle. There are enough. Richard replied, then the wording needs to be specific. It has to look like her own decision. The message did not show who removed the pills from the bottle. It showed that both of my parents knew medication would be part of the plan. The hallway footage filled in the movement. At 5:43, Elaine entered the guest preparation room using the coordinator's staff key. She left 6 minutes later with one hand closed around something too small for the camera to identify. She entered the bridal suite. After I was taken away, she returned to the bridal suite, emerged carrying a white storage box, and loaded it into Richard's car. The footage did not show the glass inside the box. It showed that she removed a container from the room where Chelsea had taken the drink. The evidence was becoming stronger because no single piece had to carry the entire story. Access to my medication, a pre-written explanation, a second glass that did not come from the bar, my medical result, the missing container, the false petition. Each fact supported another without pretending to prove more than it did. Owen's decision about testifying remained separate from all of it. Hannah brought him to Dana's office after school one afternoon. I sat across from him while Hannah explained that he could decline to speak in open court. She could present his position, or the judge could speak with him privately, under protected conditions. You do not have to testify to keep me as your guardian, I said. Owen watched me carefully. You don't have to call Chelsea a liar for me. You don't have to explain how you feel about either of us. What if I want them to hear what happened to me? Then speak for yourself, not for me. He looked at Hannah. Can I talk about the form with my fake signature? Yes, she said. You can describe what you received, what you photographed, and what you did not sign. Can they ask me about Dad's letter? They may try. I can ask the judge to limit questions that are not relevant. Owen nodded. I don't want to give a speech. You shouldn't, Hannah said. Just answer what you know. He had not yet decided whether he would speak. For once, I did not press him for an answer before he was ready. The audio technician completed the wedding clip 2 days later. Dana asked whether I wanted to hear it. Yes. She played the original first. Music pulsed through the wall. Paige's footsteps scraped against the floor. Eric said something I could not understand. Then Dana played the cleaned version. My mother's voice came first. You should go back out there before people start asking questions. Chelsea answered. They already saw enough. Eric asked, what if she remembers the glass? There was a pause. Then Chelsea said clearly enough that none of us needed the volume raised. Now they'll have to give me my son back. Dana stopped the recording. I stared at the dark computer screen. Chelsea had not asked whether I was alive. She had not asked what the doctors might find. She had measured the ambulance against the result she wanted. Play it again, I said. Dana did not move. Are you sure? I looked at the list of witnesses who intended to swear Chelsea had taken the glass, only to help me. No. I stood and closed my notebook. I don't need to hear it again. Dana saved the file into the hearing exhibit folder. I needed Chelsea to deny saying it under oath. On the first morning of the main hearing, my father wore the charcoal suit he reserved for funerals, bank meetings, and occasions when he wanted authority to look like restraint. He sat behind Chelsea with his cane resting against one knee. Elaine sat beside him in navy blue, her hands folded over a leather handbag that looked too small to contain anything dangerous. Aunt Carol took the witness stand first. Dana placed Carol's original affidavit beside her corrected statement. Mrs. Keller, did you personally see Marissa take medication at the wedding? No. Did you see her order an alcoholic drink? No. Did you see her refuse help before she collapsed? Carol swallowed. No. Dana projected the sentence that had appeared in 4 statements. She knowingly mixed alcohol with her medication. Where did those words come from? Richard sent a family summary the day before the wedding. My father's attorney rose. The witness has already testified that she signed the affidavit. She has, Dana said. I'm asking who supplied the language she signed. The judge allowed the question. Carol looked toward Richard before answering. He did. Dana displayed the authenticated server record. The family safety summary had been created on Richard's business account the morning before the wedding. An earlier revision described me as emotional and controlling. A later version added alcohol and prescription medication. Mrs. Keller, had Marissa consumed either one when you received this document? No? Then how could you independently remember a sentence that had already been written? Carol's face reddened. I couldn't. The hearing room remained quiet, but the balance inside it shifted. My cousin, who had signed another statement, stopped sitting beside my parents during the recess. One of their longtime friends asked Dana whether she should obtain her own attorney before being called. No one shouted. No one dramatically crossed the aisle to embrace me. They simply began to understand that they had not been gathered as witnesses. They had been given roles. Richard took the stand after lunch. His attorney began with his years as a small business consultant, his stable marriage, and his concern for Owen. Richard described himself as a grandfather forced to act when his older daughter became unpredictable. He said he had drafted no petition before my collapse. He said he knew nothing about the trust review scheduled for Monday. He said the family safety summary was merely a general guide for relatives worried about family tension. He said he had no financial interest in any vendor connected to Owen's trust. Then Dana stood. She began with the petition. Mr. Vale, when was this document created? After the wedding, Dana displayed the server revision history. The first version had been saved 6 days before the wedding. Richard's name appeared as author. The proposed temporary guardian was already listed as Richard Vale. He adjusted his glasses. That was a contingency draft. A contingency for what? In case Marissa created an incident. What kind of incident? She had a history of anxiety. That was not my question. Richard looked at the judge. Dana continued. Why did a draft created 6 days before the wedding already refer to alcohol, prescription medication, and the need to remove Owen from Marissa's home? I was preparing for possible outcomes. Outcomes involving her own prescription? His attorney objected that the question was argumentative. The judge told Dana to rephrase. She placed an email on the screen. It was from Richard to Chelsea and Elaine. If we use her own prescription, no one can claim an unknown substance. It has to look like her decision. I had read the email before the hearing. Hearing my father's words read aloud changed them. Dana asked, "Did you write this?" Richard stared at the screen. "Yes." "So when you testified that you knew nothing about a medication plan, that was false?" "I did not know exactly what Chelsea intended to do." "You knew someone planned to use Marissa's prescription." "I understood there was discussion." "You revised the family summary to describe the result of that discussion." "I revised it because Elaine said Marissa had been unstable." Dana moved to the next exhibit. It was Elaine's message. "I found the blue-labeled bottle. There are enough." Richard's reply followed. "Then the wording needs to be specific. It has to look like her own decision." Dana let the messages remain on the screen. "Was this also general contingency planning?" Richard's jaw tightened. "I was trying to protect my grandson by preparing a false explanation before his guardian consumed anything. I did not expect her to be hospitalized." It was the first honest sentence he had offered. Dana did not let him hide inside it. "You expected her to appear impaired?" "I expected one drink to reveal behavior we had already seen." "You expected witnesses to believe she chose the drink, combined it with medication, and endangered Owen." Richard looked toward Chelsea. "Yes." Dana moved to the trust records. Richard denied owning the family reunification vendor until she displayed the state registration attached to his consulting company. He denied knowing about the pending $48,000 request until she displayed the calendar notice Eric had forwarded to him. He denied any personal risk from the company's collapse until she displayed the home equity documents bearing both his and Elaine's signatures. "You used your house to guarantee part of Chelsea and Eric's business debt," Dana said. "I supported my daughter. And if the company defaulted, we could have lost equity. So the Monday review threatened your finances. It threatened the whole family. It threatened you." Richard's restraint finally broke. "Marissa could afford to wait," he said. "Chelsea could not. Marissa had a job, a home, and control of Owen. She always had everything stable. I had heard versions of that argument my entire life. Chelsea needed more because she had less. I could absorb damage because I survived it quietly." Dana asked, "Did Marissa's ability to survive make it acceptable to drug her and forge her signature?" Richard did not answer. The judge directed him to respond. "No," he said. It was too late for the word to save him. Elaine testified next. She spoke softly enough that people leaned forward to hear her. She denied entering the guest preparation room. She denied touching my medication. She denied carrying anything from the bridal suite. She said the message about the blue-labeled bottle referred to makeup Chelsea needed for photographs. Dana displayed the resort keycard log. Elaine's staff key opened the room where I had left my bag at 5:43. "You told the coordinator you were retrieving a handkerchief and medication for Marissa," Dana said. "I may have been mistaken. Did Marissa ask you to retrieve either one?" "No." The hallway footage played without sound. Elaine entered the room empty-handed. 6 minutes later, she left with one hand closed around a small object. She entered the bridal suite. The footage then jumped to, after the ambulance left. Elaine emerged carrying a white storage box and loaded it into Richard's car. "What was in the box?" Dana asked. "Wedding supplies." "Did it contain the glass Chelsea removed from beside Marissa?" "I don't know." "Did you wash or dispose of anything from that box?" "No." Dana displayed a text sent from Elaine to Chelsea shortly after the ambulance left. "The glass is with us. Do not answer questions until Dad speaks to the lawyer." Elaine's face changed. For a moment, she looked less like a mother protecting her child and more like someone who had realized her own words had survived her memory. "I was afraid," she said. "Afraid of what?" "That Chelsea would be blamed for an accident." "Before anyone accused her?" Elaine's attorney objected. The judge overruled it. Elaine stared at her hands. "We knew how it would look." Dana's voice remained level. "You knew how it would look because you helped create it." Elaine began to cry. I felt nothing close to satisfaction. For years, tears had been the point where every family conversation changed direction. Someone comforted Elaine. Someone reduced Chelsea's responsibility. Someone asked me to be practical. No one moved toward her. The court took a short recess before I testified. Dana warned me outside the room. "They will use the letter." "I know." "They will use your no-contact request." "I know." Answer the question asked. Do not try to prove you were right about everything. I wasn't. That answer will help you more than perfection. Chelsea's attorney began with Grant's letter. You kept a letter from Owen for 6 years. I kept its existence from him longer than I should have, because you believed you knew what he could handle. Yes. You also attempted to stop contact between Owen and his biological mother. I asked for temporary no contact after learning a document had been altered under his name. And Owen left your home afterward. He requested a court-approved respite placement because he felt controlled by you. Yes. Chelsea turned slightly in her chair. Her attorney paused, perhaps expecting me to defend myself. I did not. Would you agree that you have made decisions for Owen without his consent? Yes. He was 9 when I became his guardian. Many decisions required adult consent, but I also withheld information when I should have included him. Then Chelsea was right that you were controlling. She was right that I had a flaw. That does not make every accusation she made true. The attorney held up the hospital report. You had alcohol and your own prescription medication in your system. Yes. You cannot identify the moment medication entered the drink. No. You cannot produce the glass. No. You did not see Chelsea place medication in it. No. Then your accusation depends on interpretation. It depends on the bartender's record, my medical results, the missing medication, my mother's access to the bottle, my father's emails, the second glass, the hallway footage, the prepared petition, and Chelsea removing the drink. The attorney frowned. Dana had told me not to argue. I stopped there. He asked, why should the court trust your judgment when you admit you withheld the letter? Because I corrected the decision. I gave Owen the letter, provided independent copies of his records, supported his own attorney, and agreed that the trustee, not me, would control his money. You did that after being challenged. Yes. Because you were afraid of losing him. Yes. The admission came more easily than it would have 2 months earlier. Being wrong about when Owen was ready did not make them right to drug me, forge my name, or decide his future before he could speak. The judge looked down at her notes. Chelsea's attorney did not ask another question about the letter. When the hearing adjourned for the day, Richard intercepted me in the hallway. You have no idea what you're doing to this family. I looked at the closed courtroom door behind him. You wrote the damage down before it happened. We were trying to keep Chelsea from losing everything. So you chose what I would lose instead. You always recover. The words were almost gentle. That was what made them cruel. Dana called my name from several feet away. Eric's attorney had completed the phone production. We returned to a small conference room and opened the full message thread. Eric had written, 1 drink, 1 scene, and Monday's meeting disappears. Chelsea replied, it cannot look planned. I need enough people to see her choose the glass. Another message followed. Eric wrote, no pills. I agreed to a drink, not anything medical. Chelsea answered, Dad has that part handled. You do not need to know. The messages separated the plan with brutal clarity. Eric knew they intended to make me look drunk and use the scene against my guardianship. Richard knew my prescription would be used. Chelsea knew both sides. They had not planned for me to lose consciousness badly enough to require an ambulance. They had planned for me to slur, stumble, and appear reckless before a room full of people already prepared to interpret what they saw. The collapse had gone further than they intended. Every lie afterward had gone exactly where they planned. Eric testified before Chelsea. He entered the hearing room without his wedding ring. His attorney asked him to describe the agreement he believed he had made before the wedding. Eric said Chelsea told him I was trying to block a legitimate trust payment because I wanted Owen dependent on me. She said 1 strong drink would expose how controlling and unstable I became when I lost control. Did you agree to that plan? Dana asked. Yes. Did you understand the incident would be used in the guardianship case? Yes. Did you understand Marissa believed she was receiving a mocktail? Eric looked at me before answering. Yes. He admitted writing the message about 1 drink, 1 scene, and Monday's meeting disappearing. He admitted the company needed the pending trust payment to avoid missing a loan obligation. Then Dana displayed the rest of the thread. No pills. I agreed to a drink, not anything medical. Dad has that part handled. You do not need to know. Who did you understand Dad to mean? Dana asked. Richard. Did you ask what part he had handled? No. Why not? Because I didn't want to know. That answer did not excuse him. It explained him. Eric had believed ignorance could create a safe distance between the harm he accepted and the harm Chelsea intended. He wanted the benefit of the scene without responsibility for how it was produced. Dana moved to the company records. Eric confirmed that 2 trust payments had passed through vendors tied to the business. He confirmed the pending $48,000 invoice was meant to cover supposed family reunification services that had never been delivered. Was any of that money held for Owen's future care? Dana asked. No. Where did it go? Payroll, venue deposits, loan payments, and older vendor balances. The courtroom became quieter with each answer. Eric also confirmed that Chelsea asked him to delete any footage from the bridal suite after I was taken to the hospital. He told her the resort controlled the hallway system, and there was no camera inside the room. Why did you preserve your phone and accounting records? Dana asked. Because after I saw the messages about the prescription, I understood she had lied to me too. You were still part of the plan to deceive Marissa. Yes. You were still part of the false trust submissions. Yes. You are not asking this court to treat you as a hero. No. For the first time, Eric sounded completely honest. Not brave. Not redeemed. Honest. Chelsea chose to testify after him. She wore a cream suit and no veil, but she carried herself with the same practiced calm she had used during the wedding speeches. She began by describing herself as a mother who had been separated from her son during the worst period of her life. She spoke about becoming pregnant at 18, losing stability, divorcing Grant, and watching Marissa become the adult everyone trusted. Some of what she said was true. Our parents had asked me to fix problems Chelsea created. I had become the reliable daughter, while she became the daughter everyone rescued. After Grant died, Owen had come to me at 9 years old with 1 suitcase and a habit of sleeping with the hallway light on. Chelsea had lost more than court authority. She had lost the ordinary days from which parenthood was built. Her pain was real. So were her choices. Chelsea said she had spent years rebuilding her business and her relationship with Owen. She claimed the reunification plan was meant to give him a gradual path back to his mother. She denied using it to control the trust. She denied knowing the invoices were false. She denied knowing my medication had been taken. Then she described the second drink. It was a mocktail, she said. The same drink Marissa ordered earlier. Where did you get it? Dana asked. From the service area. Did the bartender prepare it? I don't remember. Did you bring it from the bridal suite? No. Did you put prescription medication in it? No. Why did you remove the glass after Marissa collapsed? To give it to the paramedics. Dana called Jordan back to the stand. The bartender identified the ticket for my first drink and confirmed the non-alcoholic order. He also confirmed Chelsea approached the bar after the speeches. I offered to make another mocktail, he said. She told me she had it handled. Did she take a drink from you? No. Where did you next see her? Coming from the direction of the bridal suite with a glass. The raw wedding footage played. Chelsea appeared near the service corridor with the second drink in her hand. She did not come from the bar. The video then showed her standing beside me as I took the first sip. Several minutes later, it showed my hand flattening against the table and Chelsea moving closer before anyone else noticed. When I fell, she reached across me and removed the glass. She did not carry it toward the ballroom entrance where the paramedics arrived. She carried it toward the bridal suite. Dana displayed the certified ambulance report. No drink container was provided to the crew, she read. No sample of the consumed beverage was available. Chelsea's attorney argued that panic could explain confusion. Dana agreed panic could explain many things. Then she asked why panic had directed Chelsea to remove the one object that might have shown what I consumed. Chelsea said she did not know. Dana moved to the medication. The pharmacy records established how many tablets had been dispensed. My personal medication log showed when I had last taken one. The count in the bottle after the wedding was short. None of those facts alone proved Chelsea had drugged me. Then Dana displayed Elaine's message. I found the blue-labeled bottle. There are enough. Richard's response appeared beneath it. Then, the wording needs to be specific. It has to look like her own decision. Finally, Dana displayed a message Chelsea sent Richard from the bridal suite. Bring Mom through the side hall. Paige is still filming. Did you write that? Dana asked. Chelsea looked at the screen. Yes. Why did Elaine need to use the side hall? She was helping me prepare. Why did it matter that Paige was filming? It didn't. The raw footage had already shown Chelsea asking whether the camera near my table could see the bar. The medical records showed alcohol and my prescription in my system. The keycard records showed Elaine entering the room where my medication was kept. The hallway footage showed her entering the bridal suite. The messages showed Richard had prepared the explanation in advance. The bartender showed the second drink did not come from him. The ambulance record showed Chelsea did not give the glass to the medical crew. No single piece proved the whole act. Together, they left no innocent explanation that fit all of them. Dana turned to the trust. Lila testified that North Star had received 3 suspicious requests totaling approximately $111,000. 2 had already been paid before the audit. The third had been held because the vendor could not produce records. Priya Nair explained how my electronic signature had been copied from an older legitimate form. She traced the vendors to Eric's company, Richard's consulting registration, and a payment processor Chelsea used for wedding contracts. Dana placed the reunification plan in front of Chelsea. Does Owen's signature on this document change the trust? No. Does it authorize you to withdraw money? No. Then why does it ask him to support your participation in disbursement decisions? Because I'm his mother. That was not my question. Chelsea's composure began to fracture. We were supposed to become a family again. I needed to be able to make decisions for him. Decisions about a school he never attended? Chelsea said nothing. Decisions about renovations to a property where he never lived? No answer. Decisions that sent money to a company unable to pay its debts? Chelsea's voice sharpened. That money would have kept everything together. For Owen? For all of us. The distinction had finally reached the record. Dana called Paige. Paige confirmed she had been asked to keep filming if anything happened near my table. She confirmed Chelsea later asked her to delete the clips recorded after the ambulance left. Then Dana played the cloud backup. The music from the ballroom thudded through the wall. My mother said Chelsea should return before people began asking questions. Eric asked what would happen if I remembered the glass. Chelsea answered, "Now, they'll have to give me my son back." Her attorney objected that the sentence lacked context. Dana stopped the recording. What context would make Marissa's ambulance write evidence that someone had to give you Owen? Chelsea looked toward me. You took him when I was sick. I accepted guardianship after you signed the consent, I said before Dana could stop me. Chelsea's attorney objected. The judge reminded me not to answer from counsel table. Chelsea continued staring at me. You made him yours. Dana stepped between us. No one made Owen property, Miss Vale. The question is whether you used Marissa's medical emergency to support a petition you prepared in advance. I wanted my son. Enough to put something in your sister's drink? I wanted one night when everyone saw she wasn't perfect. The answer came out before her attorney could interrupt. Dana waited. Chelsea realized what she had admitted. I did not expect her to collapse like that, she added. I did not want her in the hospital. What did you expect? I expected her to loosen up. With alcohol she had not agreed to drink? Chelsea's mouth tightened. And medication taken from her bag? I didn't know it would affect her that badly. The room stayed still. Chelsea had not admitted intending serious injury. She had admitted knowledge of the medication and the plan to impair me. Her attorney requested a break. The judge denied it until Dana completed the immediate line of questioning. You knew the prescription was in the drink? Chelsea looked toward Richard, then toward Elaine. Finally, she said, yes. Owen chose to speak that afternoon. Hannah confirmed that the decision was his and that he understood he did not have to support either petition. He sat at the witness table rather than the formal stand. The judge spoke to him in a quieter voice than she used with the adults. Owen said Chelsea had asked him to sign the reunification plan. He said the version later submitted to court contained language he had never seen. He said he had photographed the original because the section about money made him uncomfortable. He said I had been wrong to hide Grant's letter. Then he added, she admitted that. Chelsea lifted her head. Owen did not look at her. Marissa never asked me to sign anything about my trust, he said. She tried to stop me from talking to my mom and I got angry. But when I asked for my own lawyer and copies of the records, she agreed. The judge asked what he wanted now. I want to live at home with Marissa. I want Hannah to keep representing me. I want North Star to control the money. And I want to decide if I talk to Chelsea, with someone there until I know she won't use the call to make me agree to something. He did not ask the judge to punish his mother. He asked the judge to stop adults from using him. The order came late that afternoon. Chelsea's petition to terminate or restrict my guardianship was denied. I remained Owen's guardian. Hannah remained his attorney for the remaining proceedings. North Star continued as the independent trustee with sole control over trust distributions. The judge directed that the evidence concerning the false invoices, altered documents, medication, removed glass, and sworn testimony be referred to the appropriate investigators. No one was arrested in the hearing room. No one was sentenced. The guardianship court had decided who would protect Owen's daily life. Other systems would decide what my family's actions cost them. Outside the courtroom, Elaine reached me first. "You destroyed this family." "No," I said. "I stopped being the person who hid the damage." Richard asked me to help negotiate with the lender before they lost the house. I told him I would not use my savings or Owen's trust to rescue a debt created by false invoices. Chelsea stood several feet away with her attorney. "Owen will hate you when he realizes you sent his mother away." I looked at Owen beside Hannah. He was listening. "That will be his decision," I said. "For once, neither of us gets to make it for him." Winning Owen's right to choose did not end the case. It finally gave every other investigator a record they could use. No one left the courthouse in handcuffs. That disappointed some of the relatives who had expected justice to arrive with flashing lights, raised voices, and a clean ending before dinner. It disappointed some people online too once the first public filings appeared and strangers began asking why Chelsea was still walking free. Dana warned me not to mistake speed for certainty. "The guardianship court preserved Owen's life," she said. "The other systems now have to determine who did what can be proved, and which conduct belongs in which case." The trust audit moved first because North Star already controlled the records. Investigators confirmed that 2 false requests totaling $63,000 had been paid through vendor portals. The pending $48,000 request had never been released. The copied signature on all 3 submissions came from a legitimate form I had signed 2 years earlier. North Star's insurer opened its own review. The bank froze the remaining vendor accounts connected to the transactions. Prosecutors received separate referrals involving the money, the altered guardianship documents, the medication, and the sworn statements. Those files did not move together. One investigator cared about the vendor registrations. Another asked about the missing pills and the second glass. A third wanted the original server records showing when my father drafted the petition. Each time I thought I finally understood the whole process, Dana reminded me that my family had created several kinds of damage. The law did not place all of them into one convenient folder simply because they happened to the same people. By December, North Star had completed the most important part of its audit. The trust remained intact except for the $63,000 already diverted. The company began recovery proceedings against the vendors and notified the insurer. Owen's routine school, health, and support expenses continued without interruption. I was still responsible for my own legal bill. The court later awarded me part of my fees because Chelsea's petition had been filed in bad faith, but the award did not erase the payment plan Dana and I had already signed. Every month, a portion of my salary went toward a case I had never chosen. My hospital insurance covered most of the observation stay. My share came to a little over $3,000. I added it to the restitution request. It was not a dramatic number beside $1 million trust. It was still money I should never have owed because my sister wanted one night when I looked less credible than she did. Richard called me in January. I had ignored 3 earlier messages. The 4th said the lender had begun formal action on the home equity line. I called back because I wanted to hear what he was asking before I refused. "The house is part of Owen's history," he said. "You know how much time he spent here when he was younger. He also spent time at school. That doesn't make him responsible for the school's mortgage." This isn't the time for sarcasm. I'm not being sarcastic. Richard lowered his voice. "If the bank forces a sale, your mother and I will lose 30 years of equity. You pledged it against Chelsea and Eric's business debt. We did that to help family. You also used a company connected to you to bill Owen's trust. That money was supposed to keep everything operating until the business recovered. It paid debts Owen did not create. We made a mistake." The word was too small. A mistake was sending the wrong attachment or missing a payment date. My father had prepared a petition, created witness language, and helped turn my prescription into a weapon. "What do you want from me?" I asked. "A temporary loan. Or you could ask North Star whether preserving Owen's grandparents' home qualifies as family support." "No. Marissa, listen to yourself. I am. You could survive helping us." There it was again. The oldest rule in my family. Chelsea needed rescue because she might collapse without it. I was expected to absorb whatever rescue cost because I had survived everything before. "You were right about one thing," I said. "I survived. But I'm not carrying you with me." I ended the call before he could turn my refusal into another betrayal. The lender did not seize the house overnight. Richard and Elaine were given time to negotiate, sell voluntarily, or satisfy part of the debt through other assets. By spring, they listed it. The sale photographs showed freshly painted walls, empty countertops, and the formal dining room where I had spent years being told family loyalty meant accepting the larger burden. I did not attend the final walkthrough. Elaine contacted me through Hannah rather than calling directly. She wanted me to tell Owen she had only been trying to protect him. I sent one response. If she wanted Owen to consider an apology, she needed to write it herself. She needed to identify what she had done without using the words misunderstood, accident, family pressure, or but. Her first attempt began, "I'm sorry you were hurt, but everything I did came from love." Hannah returned it. Her second attempt said Richard and Chelsea had pressured her. Hannah returned that one too. The third letter was shorter. Elaine admitted entering the preparation room, taking pills from my bottle, carrying the box from the bridal suite, and repeating a story she knew had been planned. She wrote that she had treated my strength as permission to harm me and Owen's age, as permission to decide what he should believe. Owen read the letter. He did not respond. I did not tell him he should. For most of my life, I had translated my mother's intentions into softer language for everyone around her. This time, if she wanted a relationship with Owen, she had to stand inside the meaning of her own words. Chelsea's case took longer. Her attorneys argued that she had never intended serious injury. That was true. The messages showed she expected me to slur, stumble, and appear reckless. They did not show she wanted me unconscious in an ambulance. Intent mattered. It did not erase the act. By late spring, Chelsea entered a negotiated plea involving an assault-related count and a fraud-related count. The final sentencing terms were still being completed when I later told this story. But the agreement included restitution, supervised conditions, treatment requirements, and restrictions on direct contact with Owen. Richard reached his own agreement involving the false trust submissions and court filings. He was barred from any role involving Owen's money or legal decisions. Elaine accepted responsibility for taking the medication and helping conceal the glass. Her contact with Owen remained restricted, while professionals evaluated whether future communication would be safe. None of them received the exact same consequence because none of them had played the exact same role. Eric cooperated after preserving the tablet, phone messages, and company ledgers. Cooperation reduced some of his exposure. It did not make him innocent. He remained financially liable for the false invoices and business records. The company closed after its lender accelerated the debt and venues terminated their contracts. Several vendors filed claims for unpaid balances. Eric moved out before Christmas. He filed for divorce in the spring. The divorce had not been completed by the time I reached the end of this story. Their company debt, personal guarantees, and pending legal obligations made a quick, clean division impossible. The wedding had lasted one evening. The marriage spent months being dismantled by the paperwork behind it. The collapse of Chelsea's reputation was quieter than the collapse she had planned for me. Paige did not upload the video. I did not release my hospital chart. The guardianship records involving Owen remained protected. Instead, Carol told the relatives who had signed statements that Richard had edited her words. 2 others corrected their accounts. Paige removed her name from Chelsea's website and notified the venues she had recommended that she could no longer stand behind the company. Eric was required to inform lenders and business partners about the accounting investigation. Later, public court filings confirmed that the company had been tied to fraudulent submissions. 2 venues ended their agreements. Clients canceled events. Not because I organized a campaign, but because people learned that Chelsea had used professional vendors, wedding footage, and family witnesses to manufacture a legal story. The 150 guests had been selected as an audience. Eventually, enough of them understood they had also been used as scenery. My school district completed its review in February. The HR representative, my principal, and my union representative met me in the same room where I had been reassigned months earlier. The district had received verified medical information and public portions of the court findings. Nothing suggested I had knowingly impaired myself or ever worked while impaired. My full counseling duties were restored. There was no ceremony. No public apology was read over the school announcements. The parent who had circulated the wedding post sent a short email saying she had acted on incomplete information. I accepted the correction without pretending it erased the months I spent away from students. The following morning, a sophomore appeared at my office door because she was failing chemistry and had stopped sleeping. I opened my calendar and asked her to sit down. Returning to ordinary work felt more meaningful than any public declaration of victory. Owen turned 16 in December. He did not want a large party. We ordered pizza, invited 2 friends, and let him choose a cake with enough chocolate to concern Dr. Feld. Chelsea sent a birthday card through Hannah. Owen kept it in a drawer without opening it for 3 weeks. In June, he asked if he could speak to her. We were in the kitchen when he told me. He kept rearranging 3 unopened envelopes on the counter while pretending their alignment mattered. "I want one supervised call," he said. My first reaction was physical. My shoulders tightened. My hand stopped halfway to the coffee mug. He noticed. "You can say you don't like it." "I don't like it. Are you going to stop it?" "No." He waited, as though expecting the condition hidden behind the answer. "We arrange it through Hannah," I said. "Someone you trust stays nearby. You decide how long it lasts. If she talks about the trust, the court case, or asks you to agree to anything, you can end it. What if I don't want to tell you what we talk about? You don't have to give me every detail. You'll ask. I'll want to ask. That isn't the same thing." "No." The call took place in Hannah's office. I did not sit in the room. I waited at a coffee shop across the street and reorganized the files on my laptop 3 times without reading a single line. Owen called me when it was over. He came outside carrying his unopened birthday card. "How was it?" I asked. He looked toward the traffic instead of at me. "She said she's sorry." "Did that help?" "Not really." I waited. "She wants me to forgive her before she can say exactly what she's apologizing for. That sounds difficult." She asked if I still think of her as my mom. "What did you say?" "That I didn't know." I wanted to tell him that uncertainty was sensible. I wanted to explain that he could define the relationship later, after Chelsea had proven what she was willing to change. Instead, I asked, "Do you want to go home?" He nodded. During the drive, he said he wanted to keep living with me. The relief came so quickly that I hated myself for feeling it. Then he added, "But I want copies of everything, not summaries, not what you think I'm ready for. You can have them. And I want Hannah and North Star to have the same copies." "They will." He looked out the passenger window. "I'm choosing the house, school, my friends, my room. I'm not choosing sides." I understand. I did understand. Understanding was not the same as having fully changed. He had chosen the house. I still had to prove I could stop choosing the truth for him. 11 months after Chelsea's wedding, Owen stood in front of the kitchen window, tying a navy blue tie without my help. The morning sunlight fell across the counter, catching on the silver corner of the folder I had placed beside his breakfast. Outside, sprinklers clicked across the townhouse lawns. Inside, the coffee maker hissed, the refrigerator hummed, and Owen tightened the knot with the same serious expression he used when solving a problem he did not want anyone else to touch. He was leaving that afternoon for a 2-week summer leadership program at the University of Minnesota. It was the first time he would stay away from home for something that had nothing to do with courts, respite placements, family conflict, or adults deciding where he belonged. "You're staring," he said. "I'm observing." That's the counselor version of staring. The knot is slightly crooked. He looked at our reflections in the window, adjusted it once, and turned toward me. "Better?" "Yes." "You're not going to fix it?" "You seem to have survived the process." His mouth lifted briefly. He was 16 years and 7 months old now, taller than he had been at the wedding, and less willing to hide uncertainty behind sarcasm. His hair had grown long enough to fall over his forehead. He kept pushing it away while pretending he had not noticed. The legal cases were not all finished. Chelsea had entered a negotiated plea, but some final supervision and restitution terms were still being completed. Richard's financial case continued through its own process. Elaine remained under contact restrictions, while professionals evaluated whether communication with Owen could resume safely. Eric and Chelsea were still legally married, though they had lived apart for months and filed for divorce in the spring. Their company was gone. The lenders, vendors, and investigators were still dividing what remained of the debt. I had learned not to call an ongoing process an ending simply because I was tired of it. North Star had secured the trust. Hannah remained Owen's legal contact for the remaining matters. I had returned to my full role at school, and my legal payment plans still arrived every month with a number I disliked but could manage. The house had become quiet again in a different way. Not the silence of two people avoiding each other. The silence of two people learning they did not have to explain every thought immediately. Owen picked up the folder. "What is this?" "Everything I can legally give you now." His fingers paused against the cover. "Everything?" "Trust statements, guardianship orders, the original credit freeze records, your father's letter and written instructions, the audit summary, copies of the letters Chelsea sent and later withdrew." He looked at me. "What else?" "A list of decisions I made for you." His eyebrows drew together. "What kind of decisions?" "Schools, therapy, contact schedules, medical care, trust confirmations." I included the reason I gave at the time and whether anyone else reviewed it. "You made a report on yourself?" "I made a record." "That sounds like a report." "It can be both." He set the folder on the table without opening it. "How do I know you didn't leave something out?" The question was not cruel. It was earned. "You don't have to take my word for it," I said. "Hannah has an identical copy. North Star has the financial sections. Dr. Feld has confirmed the records related to your therapy. If something appears in one copy and not another, you'll know. You planned for me not to trust you. I planned for you not to need blind trust." He pulled out a chair and sat down. For years, I had believed trust meant convincing Owen I would never make a decision that hurt him. That was impossible. Real trust meant giving him a way to question me when I did. He rested both forearms on the table. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" I knew he was not asking only about the folder. "Because I thought the truth would hurt you. That's what you always said." "I know. And you thought you knew when I could handle it." "Yes. Do you still think you were right?" I looked at the folder between us. "I was right to report the credit account. I was right to keep Chelsea away from your money. I was right to require safe contact when she was unstable." He waited. "I was wrong to believe those decisions gave me ownership of every truth connected to your life." He studied my face. "That sounds rehearsed." "It is." His expression hardened slightly. "I've spent months trying to say it without making myself sound better." That answer surprised him. He leaned back. "What did you think would happen if I knew everything?" "I thought you might read your father's letter and believe he never trusted me." "That isn't what he wrote." "I know that now." "You read it before." I read the words. I interpreted them through fear. Owen looked down at the folder. "What else were you afraid of?" "That you would learn how many promises Chelsea broke and still choose her." "I can still choose to talk to her." "Yes." "That bothers you." "Yes." The answer came without the softening phrase I used to add afterward. He looked up. "You're admitting that?" "I'm trying to stop making my feelings your responsibility." He rubbed his thumb along the edge of the folder. "Sometimes I miss her." "I know. You always say that." "You're right. Tell me what I don't know." He looked toward the window. "I miss things that barely happened." "Like what?" "The way she used to sing in the car. This one song she always got wrong. I don't even remember where we were going." I stayed quiet. "I miss thinking she was about to come back," he continued. "Not actually coming back. Just the part where I thought maybe next month would be different." His voice remained steady, but his hand tightened around the folder. "Then I remember what she did to you. What she tried to do with the trust. And I feel stupid for missing her." "You are not stupid. It feels like I'm betraying you. You don't owe anyone a clean emotion, Owen. You can miss the mother you wanted. You can be angry with the mother she was. Those feelings can exist in the same room. What if I forgive her someday? That belongs to you. What if I don't? That belongs to you too." He watched me carefully. "Would you tell me if you thought I was making a mistake?" "Yes." "Would you stop me?" "If there were an immediate danger, I would act and explain why. If I was only frightened, I would talk to you, Hannah, and whoever else needed to be involved. So fear doesn't count? Fear counts as information. It doesn't get to become an order by itself. He glanced toward the unopened birthday card still tucked beneath a magnet on the refrigerator. Chelsea had requested another supervised call. Hannah had not scheduled it because Owen had not decided whether he wanted one. "Do you think I should take the call?" he asked. "I think you should decide what you want from it before you agree." "That sounds like advice." "It is." "Not an order?" "No." "What would you do?" The question tempted me. I could have described every risk. I could have reminded him that Chelsea still framed apologies around her own pain. I could have listed the ways she might use a call to seek reassurance before accepting responsibility. Instead, I said, "I would be afraid." That isn't an answer. It's the most honest one. He waited. I'd probably sit in a coffee shop across from Hannah's office and reorganize my laptop again. He smiled despite himself. "But my fear doesn't get to make the rules for your life." His smile faded into something more thoughtful. "What if she hurts me again? Then you won't face it alone. What if I keep letting her? You can end contact, restart it, change the conditions, want something different 6 months later. A decision about Chelsea does not have to become a lifetime contract." That sounds exhausting. It may be. He looked at the folder again. "Do you want me to forgive you?" "No." The answer came more easily than I expected. "I want you to know what I did. I want you to have the records I should have trusted you with. What you feel about me after that belongs to you. What if I stay angry? I'll keep answering questions while you're angry. What if I never call you Mom? You have never owed me a title." His eyes shone, but he did not look away. "What if I want to keep living here? Then you stay, just like that?" "No." He frowned. "You stay because you choose this house. Not because I rescued you. Not because Chelsea hurt us. And not because you think leaving would destroy me. Would it?" The question was quieter than the others. "It would hurt." He waited for the condition I used to attach to every truth. "Loving you makes me responsible for my pain. It doesn't make you responsible for preventing it." For a long time, neither of us spoke. A lawnmower started 2 buildings away. Somewhere upstairs, Owen's phone vibrated inside his backpack. Neither of us moved to answer it. Then he opened the folder. The first page was a plain summary of the trust, where the money came from, who controlled it, what it could pay for, and what rights Owen would gain as he grew older. He read the first paragraph. "I don't choose you instead of her," he said. "I know. I choose this house." I folded my hands on the table. "My school, my friends, my room. I choose knowing where the papers are. I choose Hannah having copies. I choose not having adults talk about me like I'm not in the room." That sounds like a decision. It is. He turned 1 page. "And I choose you too." The pressure behind my ribs loosened. "Not because Dad told me to," he continued. "Not because Chelsea did what she did. Not because I owe you. I understand." "Do you?" "I'm trying to." He nodded. "That's probably enough for today." I wanted to reach across the table and hug him. I did not make the moment carry my relief. Owen closed the folder and stood. "We need to leave in 20 minutes. Your bag is by the door." "You checked it?" "No." His eyebrows lifted. "I made a list," I admitted. "Did you put anything in the bag?" "No." "Did you stand near it and think about putting things in?" "Yes." He laughed and carried the folder upstairs. When he returned, the navy tie was still slightly crooked. His duffel bag hung from one shoulder, and the folder was tucked beneath his arm. I drove him to the university campus through light Saturday traffic. The trip took just over an hour. Owen spent most of it reading the trust summary and marking questions with a pen. At the residence hall, students and parents moved between cars carrying bedding, fans, and plastic storage bins. I parked near the entrance. Owen reached for the door, then stopped. "Will you answer if I call late?" "Yes." "What if I'm only calling because I forgot something?" "I'll still answer." "What if I decide I hate the program tomorrow?" "We talk before you quit." He nodded. "Advice, not an order?" "Probably strong advice." "That sounds suspicious." "It should." He opened the door, lifted his duffel bag, and placed the folder on top. "For years, Adults had passed documents across tables to decide where Owen would live, whom he could see, and who could speak for him. Now he carried those papers himself. He walked toward the residence hall, then turned and raised one hand. I waved back. I did not follow him inside. That evening, after he called to say his roommate seemed normal and the cafeteria pizza was terrible, Owen asked his first question about the trust. I knew the answer. I also knew the answer was no longer mine to deliver before he requested it. This time, I did not tell him what the first page meant. I waited for him to ask. This story teaches you that love should never be used as permission to control another person's choices, money, relationships, or access to the truth. When someone repeatedly asks you to stay silent, overlook forged documents, excuse dangerous behavior, or absorb the consequences because you are the strong one, that is not family loyalty. It is exploitation. You should document suspicious actions, protect important records, seek qualified legal help, and avoid confronting people before your evidence is secure. You also need to remember that protecting someone does not mean making every decision for them. Children and teenagers deserve age-appropriate information, independent support, and a meaningful voice in matters affecting their lives. You can set firm safety boundaries while still respecting their feelings, even when they love someone who has hurt them. Most importantly, you do not have to become cruel to hold harmful people accountable. You can refuse to lie, refuse to rescue them from consequences, and let verified records speak for you. Real justice may take months, but patience and careful decisions are stronger than public revenge. If this story reminded you to trust facts, respect boundaries, and never confuse control with love, subscribe to the channel for more powerful family stories and lessons.